The Evermore podcast is now sponsored by WFST Total Compliance. WFST provides fire safety requirements UK-wide to prepare you and your employees should the worst happen. Do what you do best and visit wfst.co.uk today. Enjoy the episode. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. We are back, thank God, because we're not on dodgy hotel Wi-Fi this week. We are back in the beautiful world of North Tyneside, and me and Mark are back asking the same question. We always ask, what's going on, Mark? What's going on with you?
I'm just about over man flu. If Roger's in the comments tonight, it was me with man flu, not you, that screwed up with Miggy's age. I made it Miggy about... 5 years younger than he actually is?
Actually, now you said that, when I did it, I actually thought Miggy's not that old, is he? And then I didn't even pick it up. I didn't even question your knowledge.
My brain was completely fried with man flu and all sorts over the weekend. So yeah, that was on me. But I'm slowly getting over the Phoebe voice now as well. So if it cracks a little bit, there you go. That's why.
Very good, very good. You'll be fine, mate. But thankfully, we're not relying on shit dial-up Wi-Fi from a hotel chain we shall not name, even though Mark did want to, and I says no, we'll probably get in big trouble.
Name and shame.
We will not name and shame the shit hotel chain, but yes, the Wi-Fi last week was completely untenable. So it was all my fault that we couldn't get on last week and give you a brilliant episode of what's going on. But we are back with good Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, Mark's cat has snorted 3 lines of cocaine and is currently running around his kitchen, causing absolute fucking carnage that Ian Toon Trader will love to hear. There's going to be some real fun tonight with this mental cat, but we will do our best to do this episode without him pulling the entire plug literally on the episode. So let's get stuck right in, Mark. Before we do, a little reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, please click subscribe. I'd love you to come and join us. We're over 5,400 subs now. There he goes already. Loads of room for you guys on the channel. You get all sorts. You get Newcastle United talk, you get Cats Gone Wild, you get everything. It's well worth clicking that subscribe button. Come and join us and liking the video. And if you do want to be a member, jump in the member section. It's less than a pint of lager. Loads of quality goodies and exclusive hits to videos before they come out for everybody else to see. So click that button, come be a member, like a few of you have done already, which we really appreciate. So let's get stuck right in then, Mark. So it's been a really quiet week for Newcastle United. It really hasn't it during this international break. I must say, there's nothing really been happening, is there, mate, to be honest with you, behind the scenes?
Do you know what it is? It was really quiet, and then everything sort of came at once, didn't it? Because we've got to be honest with you, we were pretty bored earlier in the week and going, not anything going on. Yeah, I was delving into the depths of all sorts of weird and wonderful sports websites, just trying to trawl up something that was going on, and there was nothing. And then all of a sudden, you just got boom, 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 boom. I went, oh God! And the Tonali news was the one that just woke everybody up.
That is the biggest place to start, to be fair. Tonali, what are the odds is what we're saying tonight. So yes, lovely little bit of shithousery punditry there for me. We are live tonight, guys, so jump in the comments and let us know what you think. Yeah, I've got a few of you in there already, which we'll get stuck into in a minute. But yeah, the Tonali news is weird, Mark. So obviously when it broke, everybody was basically collectively, I think, around the whole Newcastle United fan base said, what the fuck, basically, is what everybody said out loud. And then it all started to break through. We sent home from Italy alongside Zaniolo, who's on loan at Villa from Roma. I think he's been, Galatasaray. I said Roma. Galatasaray. He's been bombed back over to Galatasaray from what is leading to believe to be true. Emery's not fancying that bollocks, but we have signed Tonali for 50 odd million quid, so we can't do that. But he is due back at training, I think, tomorrow, is what I gather. For in preparation for the Palace game. And there's been loads of stories flying around, Mark, hasn't there? There's been stories that he's been betting on on football matches. He's been betting on, pensioners' bowls. He's been betting on tiddlywinks, kids' conkers games in the schoolyard. He's been betting on everything because he's an addict, apparently, and he needs to get help for his problem. But the news coming out tonight recently is that it's not actually football, is it? It's supposed to be card-based betting, but because the Italian FA have got real strict guidelines on the gambling, that's why they're making a big kind of furore about it. But it shouldn't really affect his football, should it really, mate, if it is just card games?
No, I mean the news changed twice within the space of a couple of hours. About 6 o'clock, I had seen a message that, there were plenty of rumours circulating that if this is sports betting, that this could be an 18-month ban and all sorts. And then, an hour ago, then I think it was Sky Italia who said that there's believed to be no sports fraud, as they put it. So no sports and sports fraud involved in this, and it's all believed to be blackjack and poker and stuff like that. And it's just a really odd, thing. And you're right, there are. I mean, there's much different rules to everything in Italy, and he's been. I think at one point Zaniolo was supposed to have been named as the head of a betting ring. It all sounds very, very sort of gangster-esque and mafia kind of esque stuff and all sorts. But the initial reports were that Zaniolo was sitting on the bench betting on his own team. That all got washed away quite quickly. But it seems to be non-sports related. So there's probably going to be punishment of some sort handed down to him, but it won't be football related. I don't think on the back of this that it's then going to be a ban like Ivan Toney or Trippier or anybody like that. I think it's just going to be, I don't know. I don't know what the end result will be. I don't know what their thoughts will, but I can't see it being the same as the others.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be a bit of a storm in a teacup. Some of us have obviously got a bit upset about it. I think some of the Newcastle fans went early with it and they were a bit pissed off about it. But I think, as I said in the reaction video that we did when this news broke initially, that whether you want to admit it or not, Tonali's not had a brilliant start to his Newcastle career. It's been all right. He's had moments when he's been decent. Obviously, the Villa game in particular, he looked fucking brilliant in that game. Then the other games, he kind of struggled a bit to influence the game. Ironically, I think the game where we weren't pressed as much by the opposition in the Villa game and in the PSG game is where he's excelled and looked his best. But where we've been a bit under the cosh and pressed, he's looked like he's been rattled a bit with the intensity of the league. It will take him time to get used to it. I mean, we were both listening to a brilliant podcast, The Rest is Football, and Thierry Henry talking so eloquently about his time in the Premier League. And if everyone remembers, Henry struggled like fuck when he first came to the Premier League, and then he turned into arguably the best footballers ever played in the Premier League. So it does take players time to adapt, and I'm pretty sure it will take Tonali time. But fucking Jesus wept, it didn't stop the Tonali cheerleaders, hosting a Bob Geldof style telethon the minute anybody even questioned, whether he was innocent or guilty or anything else like that. We don't know what's going on, but I think the way things are going at the minute, I think that it looks like it's non-football related. So as you say, Mark, you should avoid those kind of heavy penalties. And I'm sure Eddie Howe will have a word with him because it's not the kind of thing that he probably wants to have going on behind the scenes. And maybe he'll dish out his own internal punishment. Possibly he'll make Tonali read Steve Bruce's autobiography before training every day. That might be real punishment for the lad, mate, to be fair. But I don't know what
that's enough to drive him away from the club, isn't it? Christ almighty.
You're right.
That's really good. Laps is one thing. Run laps. Don't make him read that.
Mate, nobody wants to hear that. No one's doing that. And just a little sidestep away, actually, from having a little bit of banter of this story. One of the lads have jumped in there with a comment. Magpie 77. I did just see this before I come on. Actually, the Belgian-Sweden game has been abandoned after 2 fans were shot dead in Brussels. I think they have been shot dead, which is absolutely appalling and frightening, Mark, isn't it? I just hope that maybe it isn't as severe as what it's the initial first reports are coming out with. But that's absolutely scary, mate, isn't it? The world we're living in now, with everything that's going on, there doesn't seem to be anywhere safe really to be. And not even at a football game, does it these days? So.
No, I mean I literally, that was the first I saw. I've just brought it up just to have a quick read about it, and
yeah,
it's happened before the game. The
two fans, isn't it?
Just
two fans in Belgian shirts. Belgian
it says the BBC report, and BBC are always behind everybody else. In terms of what they're reporting, but they said it's not yet known whether the victims were in Brussels to watch the game. But the one note in there, it said that the gunman fled the scene is still at large. Prosecutors are treating the shooting as terror. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's just
so awful, isn't it? Yeah, just stay safe, everybody out there. I mean, our thoughts are with those people in their family. Let's hope that they're not fatally wounded, but it is, mate. It's absolutely petrifying. It is. It's getting to the stage now where people are too scared to go to football games. All this crap going on. It's just, oof, mate, horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But we'll get that one kind of done and dusted out of the way. We'll get back to the topic at hand. There, Simon said in the comments that the Tonali affair is really concerning. It feels as if he may be banged to rights, and if so, it's a long ban. No wonder Milan put it 0-5. If they knew, surely grounds to sue. Yeah, there's been a bit of that going on, Mark, in terms of, did Milan know and everything else. And I think I did ask earlier before the news broke that, potentially isn't football related. We'll get told about these kind of in-depth background checks and character checks on these players before we sign them. Now, whatever you think about this is a bit of a red flag for a player. Potentially, I know Trippier, as you said, they got kind of bollocked as well for it, but is this much to do about nothing? Is this just a case of this is the shit that our players do all the time, but because it's not as severe in our country that we don't really see the problem with it, but over in Italy and Spain they do? Is it just as cut and thrust as that, really?
I suppose it depends on the levels, but yeah, there is that. It's not as frowned upon, and I think George put a massive comment in the chat earlier on about. And this is part of the problem in this country: is everything is covered by betting companies, or just well the sport. Everything is covered. There's so many, and I know they're trying to weed them out of sponsorship, but there's so many still involved in the sponsorship of football in this country that they're not allowed to have in others. You've only got to look at some of the English teams that are going to play in Europe this season and having to wear shirts without sponsors on. Or play with stupid stickers across their sponsors because they don't have another kit to wear. And I think there is that massive problem with that. But to go back to it, I just don't think it's not seen as severe for stuff like that. We don't have like the illegal gambling stuff there. I think they probably would have existed more at one point in time. But there's so much access to it now. And I don't think it wouldn't get frowned, and I don't think that would get brought up. If there's a severe problem that gets found at sort of purchase time of a player, then yes, I think absolutely you've got to look at, is this going to be a problem later on? But a lot of it, you're just never going to know. You're not going to know that a player has that level of addiction, because mainly for people, they know how to hide it well enough, and at that level, there's so much money involved from the player that you just wouldn't realize until something like this comes out.
Yeah, I mean, Ian's saying addicted to blackjack. Did Milan know this? Hence why we got the deal of the line quickly. Did we get a refund? Perhaps we should have given number 21 Ian just to take the piss completely if he was there. If he was acting. So I couldn't resist, mate. You lined that up for me there. I tapped that one in the back of the net. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it might just be much ado about nothing. I think the more and more that comes out with it, the more and more we'll see. We'll see what happens about it. I mean, if it's nothing to do with football, nobody can do anything. Nobody can really do anything. The FA can't really do anything. Premier League can't really do anything. So it's not like the Ivan Toney thing when he's betting on his own team, which I think was Newcastle, wasn't it? Or when he was on loan from Newcastle, he was betting against Newcastle. So Ivan Toney thing was completely different, really, with regards to that situation. So let's hope it all blows over. And Tonali can get back to basically doing what he does best, and that's play for Newcastle. I do have a feeling, though, just looking a little bit towards Palace at the weekend, it's quite funny actually. I did see some of the photographs. We haven't got them up there in the bit, just because I don't want to give anybody a heart attack with just the pure sexual tyrannosaurus that is Callum Wilson taking volleys with his top off in the sunshine. I'd make sure my wife can't see any of that, or anyone's wife shouldn't see that, or you'll just go home to an empty house. But the lads are obviously doing a bit of warm weather training. I'm not sure whether Tonali. I mean, I don't know if he would start in the Premier League anyway, Mark. I think he seems to prefer Anderson in that midfield, doesn't he? And I think the fact that Gordon's back as well, Gordon should just slip straight back into that left wing position, and Anderson drop back into that kind of industrial midfield with Longstaff and Bruno. I think Tonali will be on the bench anyway. I think, but I think he'll definitely not start him after all this bollocks. Do you think that's right, or do you think he'll go the opposite way and put him into the spotlight and see what he does?
I suppose it depends on the conversation he has with him at the club. But I mean, Joelin's start after his drink drive issue, and everybody thought he would get dropped for it. And
and then Lascelles with a fighting, and he came up and stuck up for him. And
so look, if it's much ado about nothing, then there's no reason to kind of hold him back, is there? And look, I think football and decision, he's not quite hit the ground running yet in the Premier League. It's fair to say.
Yeah.
There's signs, you talked about it before. There are definite signs there that the sort of the players coming out, and certainly in Europe he's looked a lot more comfortable in the way that European teams have certainly Milan and PSG have sort of approached the game as opposed to the Premier League sides. But I don't know. I do think that he probably doesn't play. If everybody else is fit, he doesn't start. Just because of how good Sean's looked, obviously, since he's come back into the side, how much that then frees Bruno up. And I think Anderson's played well enough to deserve that other spot. But you've also got the fact that Joe Linton's potentially going to be fit. I think Willock's a week behind, so he's due to be back for the Wolves game the following week.
Mm-hmm. Was it Arsenal? Was it Arsenal after Palace?
Or maybe one after that. But I don't think I would almost think that Eddie goes into it with the Sean, Bruno, Anderson midfield in that one, and then goes from there. But I wouldn't be surprised if he played him, because look, he's got more and more time under his belt. He's had an extended break this time, so he's going to be fresh, having left the Italian camp. So he's not going to be tired from traveling. He's not going to be tired from having to play the games in the break. So yeah, he might just pull one and put him in. But like I say, if it is much ado about nothing, and he's happy with what Tonali has said to him, then I don't see an issue if Eddie goes, no, we start him.
Yeah, I mean, Tacoin's got a good point there. He should get some minutes before the Dortmund game, though, to make sure his head's right. I do agree with that, Tacoin. But yeah, I think I said it in the Tonali reaction video when we did it. This is when we were assuming the worst, I suppose, really, weren't we? We were just thinking if this is the worst, and he can't play. But if you look at the players that are in there already, and I listed them all off, I mean, you said there, Mark, Joe Litton's coming back, Joe Willock come back. Two gigantic players for Newcastle last season who were sensational in our midfield. Anderson's really stepped up this season. Longstaff looks back to his best. Bruno's obviously the main fulcrum of it. Louis Miley's looked good in parts. The kid's been on the bench in the Champions League games against Milan and PSG. So obviously Eddie rates him and he's got something about him. So for Tonali's sake, this is the last thing he probably needed, really. He's already had a bit of an up and down start to his career. He's trying to convince not only the manager, his teammates and the supporters that he is the man. The last thing he wanted was probably this heat on top of, but by the looks of it, just to finish on this subject, he ain't going to be the only one, because apparently the report in the Daily Mail reckons there's up to 40 players that are going to get pulled into this betting scandal, by the Italian FA, and that's a massive amount of players, Mark, isn't it? What the heck's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound more and more like it's a group thing. It's obviously been, and I wonder whether the rumors about Zaniolo, maybe it's true that he's kind of a little bit of a ringleader in putting together like group poker sessions or group blackjack sessions online.
But players do that in our country all the time, as we said. That's not a problem. That's a bonding thing for the lads in our league, isn't it?
And this is it. If they're using, I guess, if they're using illegal sites that maybe they're not supposed to be where they are, that's different. I guess a lot of the stuff that happens here, yes, there'll be a lot that's online. I mean, how many times I've been to loads when I was younger, going to a poker night and stuff like that, and you don't think anything of it. It's a bit of crack. It's a bit of it's a bit of a bonding session. You have a few beers, you throw a few quid in the mix, and then you go home a few quid lighter and a bit more pissed. But that was how I never won. I was crap at it. But yeah, it is seen as that bit of fun. And I wonder whether it's gone to the extreme, which is where it's ended up at. But look, it's one of those we're going to have to wait for anything more. It looks like it's going to be non-sport related, which means there shouldn't be a hefty ban involved. Because basically, I mean, 4 hours ago, that was the message. It was, authorities are looking at potentially an 18-month ban. Now that almost kills his career at Newcastle at that point, because 18 months from now, where will Newcastle be? Have they then gone beyond the likes of Tonali?
Possibly.
But I think I think this is the football in terms. This is the best news. It's not great, but it's the best outcome if it's non-sports related. Therefore, there's no ban, and we'll just see where the chip. Sorry, no pun intended. See where the chips lie.
Hey, I do the jokes around here. You stop stepping into the chair. What are you doing? Listen. Let's roll the dice. Let's roll the dice and move on to some of the comments. Here we go. Let's see. So there's a good one there. I've seen a couple of comments here about the legend is Keith Gillespie, and he had a gambling problem quite openly. Spoke about it. As Magpie says, that Gillespie said his problem was confusing fast women and slow horses, which is very.
I'm not laughing at the gambling problem. I was laughing at the comment.
The comment, very, very good. But George says he found Keith Gillespie on the fruit machine in the corner house in Heaton one night. Funnily enough, George, as me and Mark are coastal boys, I remember Keith Gillespie being down in the arcades in Whitley Bay for a long period of time, just putting pound after pound after pound into the bandits in one of the Whitley Bay amusements, much to the amusement of all the young supporters who were standing there watching them going, fucking hell, that's Keith Gillespie. I don't think you actually won any money, but you made everybody's day, Keith. So top man, absolute top man. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this Tonali story. Everybody else really will as well, I think. And hopefully, as you say, Mark, it'll just be a bit of a storm in a teacup. The next one is another midfielder. So from the great news and the happy days that he signed a new contract and the big smile and interview with his dad, and we love him and he loves being here and all that, it didn't take long for a little bit of shithousery from the journalist to pop out into the press. And that was that Bruno apparently had a special release clause just for Barcelona, where they could pay 40 million, hang on, Mark, before you start, 40 million less than the £100 million release clause just because the Barcelona, that's right, Barcelona, who are fucking skint, that Barcelona, apparently are going to be able to buy Bruno Guimaraes for 40 million less than anybody else. Simon's already been in the comments there saying the Bruno situation is affling to me. The amount of fans wetting themselves that he'll leave cut price. Only this club does a player commit a future, and fans he's off to Liverpool. So it wasn't Liverpool, it was Barca. But what was your thought on that, Mark? You look like you're ready to rev up and give it some.
I'll use George's line.
You've been waiting to pull George's comment up for ages.
Toro Mierda, bollocks, bullshit, absolute bullshit. It's I cannot see that being not that. I could see there being a clause that at a certain amount that you look at it, but not 40 million less than anybody else. There's absolutely no way that Newcastle have agreed to a contract that says, yes, your release clause is 100 million. Oh, but by the way, if it's Barcelona, who, let's not forget, are going to be a rival very, very soon, if not already, because they're, they're in a bit of financial strife. But anyway, but to say that they're then available, he's available to them for 40 million less at 60 million, bollocks. Yeah. Absolute horseshit.
Absolute nonsense.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
I just think it's one of those where, and I think George is absolutely spot on in terms of they've had their spending cap slashed due to FFP, and then all of a sudden the rumours about Bruno and Barca have been there for a long time. I mean, Christ, we saw some of the ones saying that he'd been to what was it? I can't remember who it was now. It said that there'd been this secret meeting between the two of them, and so that those rumours have flown around for quite some time. So that there's always going to be that link there, but it's just a dreadful bit of rumour mongering, isn't it? There's no, I cannot see any way Newcastle would have agreed to put anything like that in his contract. Not at all.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. That we would do that. And I think the problem is with the South American players, you always have that Real Madrid, Barcelona pull and talk about them, because that's the teams that they grew up idolizing as young players from Brazil and from the rest of South America. That they're the teams that they looked at because a lot of their star players were playing for those teams at the time, like Galacticos and Rivaldos and Ronaldinhos and those kind of guys, Romarios, Ronaldo's. Those are the guys that they looked up to. So that's why there's that pull there, and there always is that pull there. But yeah, I do think it's a little bit of bullshit. I really do, and I certainly didn't, give a single bit of wee out of my body about that. I didn't wet my pants at all. Didn't even dribble because I just thought it was a load of bollocks. I really did. I thought it was absolute fucking manure. It just made me laugh, and I think yet again with Bruno's that type of player. Regardless of where we are now, whether we're in the Champions League, beating PSG 4-1, fucking smashing Sheffield United 8-0, looking really good, looking in a lot better shape than a certain team in Manchester who we're going to have a fucking real good laugh about in what's going on Out of Toon in a minute. But we're doing much better than they are. But people still think that the likes of Bruno is too good for us. So they're always going to link him to other teams that they deem better than us. And I just think this is just a little bit of that, mate. I really do. Like you say, Mark, I just think it's fucking nonsense, really.
Newcastle are an easy target, and they will be for a while until they are properly established in that top four in the Champions League consistently. Every little thing is going to get picked up. Every time that Newcastle have a player that looks like they are going to another level, and Bruno is one of those. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one or two more. I would imagine that Botman's probably on that list as well.
Isaac will be another as well. I'm sure
they will all get pushed, and the sports media, the sports journalists love to do it. They love to take an unfancied team, as Newcastle really are at the moment, I guess, and start going, well, they're not quite big enough. So these players that are there, we'll push them. We'll start peddling them elsewhere, and we'll push them in. It's clicks. It's exactly that. They've got to sell their column inches, their website clicks. They have to create this bollocks just to sell. And it is going to happen until Newcastle are at a level where City could be, or a Real Madrid, and that's going to be some time away. I think. But this will happen, and there's always a bigger fish, So the more players Newcastle have like this, it will get less and less because then they become one of the bigger fish in the pond. But there's usually always a bigger one. How many times have we seen players at City that have been linked with Madrid because Madrid are still seen as the bigger fish in the pond? So
yeah. Well, it is that, mate. Like I said, we're on that journey, and I think these things will come and come and come. I'm loving these Keith Gillespie sightings, by the way. These are where on earth is Keith Gillespie? Where has he been? Chris is saying he saw Keith in a pub at Redcar in 2006, playing the fruit machine for about 2 hours. He did love the fruit, as I think George said in the comments as well. He did like the fruit machines.
These are better. When you get the transfer deadline day and you've got, I've just seen such and such board and I'm playing. These are better than those. So yeah, keep
it's
going.
Absolutely brilliant.
I like this.
If anybody else has Keith Gillespie stories, yes, absolutely brilliant. We have many Monday night stories of Nobby Solano being utterly fucking bollocks in the Quayside because we used to bump into him every Monday night, Mark, didn't we, when we used to go out? And it was always a pleasure, was Nobby.
It's a delight. He's such a lovely bloke.
And even when he was drunk, he was a lovely guy as well.
Yeah, do you know what? Monday nights in Chase were epic for that, for running into the first team. They were good fun.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Just we've got a comment there from Ty saying, got to remember Newcastle, the trailblazers when it comes to bringing Brazilian players to English football. We had it first. Well said, mate. You were absolutely right. We did. We had a Brazilian in Newcastle way before the lasses from Geordie Shore were doing that, mate. So well said. Well said. What we got here? Gary is saying, it all smells of envy in the media by the clubs. Absolutely, Gary. I couldn't agree more, mate. I really couldn't. I think, like I say, we are going to get a lot of that going on. To be fair, moving forward. But yeah, so we'll kind of put a pin in that. I think really for the old Bruno scenario. But some good news, mate. Some good news. England played this week. They weren't particularly great. They were playing against Australia. It wasn't cricket, no, it was football. And England managed to win 1-0. But one of the best things, I think, for the game, Mark, was this lad right here wearing the captain's armband for England. Captain Trips, captain his country, mate. Massive honour for Kieran, massive honour for the club. When was the last time we had a Newcastle player captain in England? Was it that little fucking arsehole Michael Owen, by any chance? In the comments below, guys, let us know. Was it Michael Owen? Was he the last Newcastle player to wear the captain's armband? I'm pretty sure that he was.
That might be. You might be bang on with that.
I think I'm right with that. I think I'm right. Obviously, Shearer was the captain for a long time. Yeah. Shearer was a captain, captain with distinction. Magpies has already jumped in with the Shearer. I'm sure it was Owen Magpies. I don't, because Owen was obviously still playing for England. Quite a long time, really, wanted to be fair, but it was not the most flattering pick, was it, Jules? To be fair, it's Trippier. We love Trippier. Absolutely love Trippier.
I did notice that. I did try and find it quite quickly, and I thought it was the only one that wasn't really blurry. So I thought, I'll use that one, and then was like, it doesn't really show him in the best light, does it?
Well, listen, he looks good as all Kieran Trippier. Yeah, not as good as Callum Wilson, but we can't have it all, Kieran. BT saying the last Newcastle player to manage England. Oh my God, is that Kevin Keegan? Kevin Keegan? It's got to be. Got to be Kevin Keegan, BT. Surely, let me know in the comments, mate. I'll be up all night thinking about that if you don't tell me the answer. But I'm sure it was Kevin Keegan. But yeah, I think everyone looks stumped in the comments. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Aaron says it was Kevin Keegan. I'm pretty sure it was. But yeah, I'm sure Michael Owen was the last Newcastle player to be captain for England. Mark is Googling this ferociously in the background, I think.
It's funny. He was never officially England captain.
But when on the pitch, though, with the captain's armband at one point, he would have had it. When Beckham went off or something like that.
I would imagine he's been given the armband at some point.
Yeah, I would imagine
he was. Yeah, 2000 to 2006, Beckham, when Beckham was captain, Owen was reserve captain. So I assume that it's happened then, and that was post Shearer. Unless Scott Parker took the armband.
No, I don't think Parker ever captained England. Don't think so.
11 to 12, John Terry is captain. Gerrard, Lampard and Parker were listed as reserve captains.
I'm sure Owen was playing for us when he played for England, wasn't he, George? I'm sure Owen was playing for us when he played for England. Because that's all he fucking cared about playing for, really. George is in the comments. He last skipped England in 2004. And he joined us in 2005. So maybe I'm wrong. That's got to be Jordan Henderson, Gary. We know that one. The last Mackham player to captain England has to be Jordan Henderson, surely.
Well, unless Pickford's taken it.
His arms are too small. The band just kept falling off and hitting the floor. Couldn't get it on. Couldn't get the armband on. It's on his wrist. He looked like he was at a fucking concert. Parker.
Parker's out.
Parker
was Newcastle 2005, 2007. He's listed as reserve captain 11 to 12, so that one would be out. Owen's probably the closest one we'll sort of get.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it probably
if you're talking about current player at the time, then yeah, I think probably of Owen's out. It's probably then has to be Shearer, doesn't it?
Probably, very probably. But yeah, that's a wide gap from Owen this year, that isn't it? Bloody Nora. That was Gary saying he wasn't playing for the Mackhams. Oh, do you mean when he was playing for Sunderland? Sorry, mate. I thought he was former Mackham player. So it's not Jordan Henderson then. So a Mackham player, England captain. Who could that have been then?
This is taking a strange turn for Newcastle United.
Hasn't it just, Gary? Have you been drinking, Gary? It wasn't
Gary's
Adam,
been on the cheesy chips tonight.
It wasn't Adam Johnson, unless there was an England prison team, possibly he was a captain for.
Thanks, man.
Just what you needed when you were coughing, mate. Yeah. God, who could that have been? Playing for Sunderland. Wasn't Kieran Richardson or something, was it? Kieran Richardson, possibly.
In the armband.
But you know, it's like in friendlies, they just toss the fucking armband around, don't they? Like a slag at a party, don't they? That's what they do.
Sven was manager. Christ, he just used to change his entire team, so you'd have an entirely new 11. So nobody never knew.
Very true, very true. But this has taken a funny turn. Never, I guess. Yes, I have and still am. Oh, drinking. Sorry, Gary. You lost me there for a minute. I was wondering what you're talking about then. Mark's written himself off. Yeah, he has, mate. He's absolutely done himself in. I blame the cat with a cup of tea. Yeah, the cat has spiked his tea, mate. That's what it is. That's why he's coughing. But Gary, tell us who this Mackham was, this mystery Mackham was down the bottom. That's quite interesting. We started off talking about a player we signed from Milan. Now we're talking about Mackhams. You never thought you'd have them two together in the same sentence, mate. But tell us the answer before the episode, or we'll all go to bed angry, mate. We'll all go to bed angry. But listen, moving on from other good news as well. We saw a new contract extension, mate. Which was Mr. Byrne himself. Dan Byrne has signed a new contract extension. I've never doubted him. I've always thought he was the best left back in the world, mate. I've never criticised him one bit whatsoever. So I think he fully deserves his new contract, Mark. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm sorry. In my head, I'm thinking like Roberto Carlos or something, but Dan Byrne. No, he's been brilliant. And can we just remind Goldbridge as well of this? With this comment of, well, they'll all be gone within a year or two, and bollocks. Look, there's a core at the club now who will be at the club for a good few years. There are a few that are around the fringes that will be gone, and there are those that are tremendous squad players and will be tremendous squad players for a couple of years as well. Beyond a year down the line, that all of these players will be gone. The good work that the likes of Dan Byrne put in, and he's never. Yes, we've questioned quality, I think, at times, but you can never question his work ethic, his application, his ability to throw himself at everything, and he's been an absolute shining light is in this new era, and I just a brilliant. Bit of business for him. It's great to have that local link to your club, and to have the 3 or 4 of them now around the first team that are local and are playing at that level as well. They're not just thrown in it just for the sake of it. I just think it's brilliant, and he thoroughly deserves a new deal.
It is, mate. You're totally right. I mean, looking at the lineup, never mind how far we've come with the takeover and the new players and everything else. When you're talking about a midfield consisting of a lad from North Shields, a lad from Whitley Bay, and then a guy from Blythe at left back, that it does fill your heart with pride. That despite all of this money and all this clamour to sign Neymar and Mbappe and all this, we've got 3 lads from the region. If you chuck Dummett in there as well, there's another. Do you know what I mean? And I just think it is definitely reward for what he's done, the work he's put in. It's a great story, Dan Byrne. If you look at it in isolation, his story is absolutely superb. And listen, next season, he signed a new contract extension. He might not be a starter. Lewis Hall might kick on. He might get the starting left back berth. But Dan Byrne will be a key member of this squad on the pitch and off the pitch. And I think that's probably a large reason as to why he's been given that new contract. I think there'll be a few more players that follow. I think Longstaff will get a new deal. I think Schar will get a new deal. Fabian Schar, by the way, I saw a Man United fan speaking to Goldbridge. There was a girl that goes on with Goldbridge, and she was rambling on about, the news that we're going to have a good giggle about in a minute and Out of Toon. But they were talking about some of the Newcastle United players and stuff. And talking about likes of Fabian Schar, right? Fabian Schar cost us 3 million fucking quid, right? And the guy is absolutely phenomenal. They signed Maguire for 80 million quid, who got hit in the face with a fucking dummy in England training when Jack Grealish ran for a sprint the other day. That's 80 million quid's worth of player. And we've got this guy for 3 million quid who's crunching the tackles and whipping in worldies against Paris Saint-Germain, against, arguably one of the best keepers in the world. I mean, the quality that these guys have had deep within, and now they've got the right manager to ignite it and get it out of those players. I mean, fucking hell, Eddie Howe is squeezing every last drop of quality out of these players, Mark, isn't he? The other managers didn't even know existed. I mean, could you imagine what he could have done with with Florian Lejeune? Could you imagine what he could have done with Matty Longstaff if he broke on the scene? It's almost a shame that Eddie wasn't here before with some of these players, because these could have been, up at this level as well, mate, couldn't they?
I'd say some of them will be going back and we wish you turned up a couple of years earlier to try and just get
those
the best
those
out
two
of us.
are named just two. Those two are named just two.
If you take Fab in isolation, he was out the club. He was leaving.
Yeah, he was.
When Bruce was in charge, Fabian Schar was out the door. He wasn't getting a new deal. He wasn't. He looked like he was gone. And I think it's one of the greatest sort of travesties in that regard, because he's such a good player. And yeah, you're absolutely right. He was an absolute gem, an absolute bargain, and he's just looked better and better. And that partnership now between the two, between Schar and Botman, they're so switched on together. They work so well together. And look, anybody, when you're coming from a Man United base, when you look at the absolute batshit craziness that they've got going on at the back, it's comical what goes on with their defenders at times. I mean, that you've got. I mean, Varane looks shadow of the player.
He's finished him, man. He's done. Casemiro looks done as well now. He looks like he's peaked, and he's done. When
Lindelof is your best defender, something's gone massively wrong at that club. And then you can't then go on to others and start having a pop at their players, because look, I mean, Fabian Schar, ever since Eddie's come in, has been tremendous, and he was utterly sensational against PSG. He was. I mean, we said it. He was man of the match. He was brilliant, and he never put a foot out of step. He's done barely anything wrong in 2 years now, and brilliant. He's been fabulous. Just brilliant.
I think what they will do, though, because it's a smart way to do it, like they've done with Livramento. I think they'll look to get the next guy in, all ready to kind of almost learn from the guy who's already there, and then just step seamlessly into the position. And I think the Livramento deal didn't make any sense to us. Then we saw him against City, we went, actually, hang on a minute. Now we kind of see what's going on there. And Trippier, Trippier is sensational for us. He really is. And I think he's got at least another season or two in him. But with Livramento being that step straight in, I think you'll get more game time as those seasons tick over, because Trips won't have as many games to play because his body won't take it. I mean, I was watching the David Beckham documentary. I think a lot of us probably were. Superb documentary. Absolutely loved it. He was a great player, back when we were younger, Mark, watching him, and to see, that side of his life again was incredible. But he was talking about later on in life how his body couldn't recover enough from all that football. And Trippier's kind of at that stage now, you know what I mean? So I think as the seasons come on, Trippier will play less. So Livramento will get more game time. And I think the same will go with Fabian Schar, because, he isn't getting any younger. We give him a contract extension. If they get in as replacement, whoever that may be, there's been links to Marcus Guy from Crystal Palace, there's been links to, Silva from Benfica, all these cracking players, right? And I think they'll do the same. There'll be bits where they play a game and Fabian Schar doesn't, and Fabian Schar will play a game in Europe or whatever. They'll play a game in the league or the cup or whatever. And this will happen slowly but surely, won't it? Until the time comes where we say, thank you very much, Kieran. Thank you very much, Fabian. Off you go. And we've got the ready-made replacement there, Mark. And that's smart football management, isn't it? Of a club and of a squad.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ideal scenario. It's one of those where that possibly that production line isn't a possibility, and you may end up going, well, rather than the next one to come through, you have to just buy a ready-made replacement. If something, I mean, you've got to contend with things like injuries, and that's one of the worries when you don't have as many, or you don't have the squad depth there. Like, you get 2 injuries at centre back at the moment, and Newcastle are in trouble. Crisis.
Look up front. We're in trouble up front if we get injuries there. That's a great comment, by the way, from Luke. I'd love to see Tripp scored in the management too, Luke. I think, imagine him running under 21s, Mark. Imagine Trippier being the manager there. How inspirational he is, man! Fucking incredible, man.
I mean, look at his coaching ability when he was injured the first season he turned up.
Yeah.
He didn't miss a beat with the team because he was there. He was another coach. His leadership in and around that first team, and to be fair, I could see that continuing on and becoming a first team coach. If he wants to go that route, you'd have him in your first team coaching staff straight away, because he's good enough to do it now.
Sorry, just great comment, Stu, man. Great comment. Absolutely super. Absolutely super. I did see Gary kind of caught us out there. I think he said there was no player that did. That's why it was an easy question. I think is
well
what
done, Stu. I like that.
Absolutely. And Kev says Trippier definitely has coaching ability. You can't see. I did see your comment earlier about the Beckham thing, Kev. Honestly, watch it, mate. As a football fan, you'll love it because it was absolutely class. It really, really was. I think he come across so well, and it actually, because I remember the '98 thing, because we were probably teenagers, Mark, watching that, and we remember how bad.
Well, probably we were actually
teenagers watching it, but when you watch it back as an adult and you've lived a little bit more and you understand, you have a bit more of a perception about things, you see the vile side of football fans. And honestly, Kev, watch it, mate. I'll give you. We're not a movie recommendation podcast, but I would tell you to check it out, because I think it's well worth a watch.
It's one of those that, and it sort of transcended the football, and I love the football side of it, because I thought, and I can't remember whether I've said this before, but I thought they did it in terms of the football side of things very well, because the clips they used just weren't throwaway clips. They meant something, and they brought back memories at the right time. The weird thing, my wife doesn't like football. She can't stand it. But yeah, she sat and watched the entire thing because she was engrossed.
I wonder why.
Really enjoyed it. She's never been the biggest Beckham fan though, but she come out of it going, actually, I really like the bloke. And even Victoria as well.
She came across quite well, I must admit.
Really well.
Quite funny.
I was quite surprised by that. So it is a good watch. But the one thing I was going to pick up on when you were talking about players recovering and not being quite the same and it taking longer, Shearer said the very same thing recently on the Restless Football podcast.
Yeah, great podcast.
And they were talking about when it was time to kind of hang up your boots, and Shearer said that, the following days he just couldn't, he couldn't get out of bed, he couldn't move. It was becoming harder and harder to be able to actually function, and he knew in that last season that was the time to go, because he couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. It was hurting too much.
We made Shearer stay too long. I think he probably should have went way before that. But when we were fucked. Obviously, we didn't sign his replacement. We signed his strike partner who was injured and cared more about England. Great comment there, Luke, as well. Beckham was a role model, mate. Even I hated Man United. Me and Mark hated him with a passion, but he was a proper role model, mate. And yes, Kev, we were teenagers in 1998, and you were 11, so you're a little bit younger than us, mate. But yeah, we were teenagers, mate. Back in the FIFA and the Pro Evolution Soccer days, Mark, as memory serves. Back in
FIFA, yeah, definitely. FIFA International, FIFA 97.
Yeah. Was that one you used to curl it? You used to curl it off the wing all the time. You always get a goal doing that. Ian's.
Sorry, it was the one where you used to be able to run away from the referee when he was trying to break it.
I really enjoyed that one. Yeah, the ref used to get really pissed off, and then he just give up in the end, which was great. Yeah, Ian's saying, Chris, I hope these Ramsdale rumours are true. Pope too comfortable now, makes mistakes, and backups aren't good enough. It was a weird one because Ramsdale was linked with us heavily, and then it went away. And I think when we did the rumour has it, Ian, we kind of just did it almost as a, Newcastle interested in the player. I would like to see Ramsdale be a realistic target, because I think he's a very good goalkeeper, good with his feet. Some people have questioned, I think, his kind of mentality in that, Mark, haven't in terms of his personality and stuff. But all goalkeepers are mental, though, isn't they? Like they've got a screw loose.
Steady.
No, they really have. When they're on the park, they are a bit loopy, aren't they? Some of them are loopy than others. I mean, like Barthez was batshit crazy, but some of them are a bit screwier than others. But all keepers have that kind of different side to them, don't they? Do you know what I mean? And I do think Ramsdale will add something to the back line. I mean, I'm not trying to get rid of Pope. I think Pope's probably one of the best shot stoppers in the league, but he definitely looks shaky when he comes out, man, doesn't he? There's something's not quite right there.
He looks like he's lost a quite a chunk of confidence. And look, I mean, go back again. Shearer said on that podcast, goalkeepers are weird. Yeah, you have to be slightly. I think that just comes with the nature. But I mean, I never shut up. I go on a field and generally speaking, I don't know whether you believe it, I'm quite quiet day to day. I don't.
Yeah, you will.
I don't get upset about an awful lot. Nothing really. Put me on a football pitch and I'm an absolute twat. And that's what you have to be. I just spent 90 minutes barking orders at everybody, and that was part of it. You've got to be slightly cuckoo to throw yourself into places that you probably shouldn't throw yourselves into. But Ramsdale, I think that I know when we did the stats really didn't do it any justice. And goalkeeper stats are really weird anyway. It's not you don't have the same sort of level of pressing and shots and all that kind of stuff. And it's really a lot of the time you solely based on what happens to the goalkeeper, based on what the back four in front of them is. So looking at actually Arsenal and Pope, Ramsdale and Pope for last season, probably quite a good look because they're fairly very
similar. Yeah,
even teams. But it's noticeable where Ramsdale is slightly better, and at times he has looked a little shaky. And I think that's part of why Arteta brought David Raya in.
Yeah.
But again, I think of the two, I still think the better ball player is Ramsdale. I think he's very good with his feet. I think that's what the genesis of goalkeepers is now. But I think that, and I did start to write this a little while ago about the fact that I think Pope will be a bit of a victim of this going forward. He's a very good traditional goalkeeper, but you have to have that next step because a lot of Newcastle's play bypasses the goalkeeper, where if you look at the likes of Alisson and Edison, they're always involved. There's always an outlet for the defenders to go back to the goalkeeper and start again. They're comfortable on the ball. Pope's not that at the moment. And you have to start to bring that side of the game in. As Newcastle get better and better and start to challenge more and more, they're going to have a goalkeeper that's much more comfortable on the ball. And Pope may be the victim of that a little bit sooner than possibly first thought. I think he's a little long in the tooth to start developing that side of his game now. He's not terrible.
What happened to Joe Hart, wasn't it? That's what happened to Joe Hart, and that's why he disappeared from the Manchester City story, a bit like Marty McFly in Back to the Future, wasn't it? Because he couldn't use his feet.
And there's going to have to be an element, I think, from Eddie of being ruthless like that and going, this isn't what we need now. And Pep did that to Hart really early on and just said, you're not right for me.
It was brutal as well, wasn't it, to be fair, at the time. But you can understand why he did it, though. They've never looked back, have they?
In hindsight, yeah, exactly. I think at the time I was seething because Joe Hart was kind of the peak of
England's number one, wasn't he? Though really kind of wrecked his career.
What are you doing? Actually, when you watch Joe Hart, you go, "Yeah, I kind of get it." And I see the same in Pope. I love him to bits. I think he's a brilliant goalkeeper. I do think he's lost a yard in his thought process and stuff, not of pace, but of just the way that he plays. But and I think that's a confidence thing, and hopefully that comes back. Excuse me.
Yeah. But as I said though in the video, as you're choking to death, as I said in the video, you're going to be careful you don't make the same mistake that Man United did and get rid of an accomplished goalkeeper for somebody who's made a tracing paper like Onana just because he can use his feet. So just while Mark's dying slowly there, John is saying that only one click away. Yes, John, good reminder. Click the likes, mate. Yes, but love you to like the video. It always helps the channel grow. Helps with the algorithms, as Mark would say when he wasn't dying of man flu. Ronald is saying these rumours Beckham had a hair transplant like Rooney. I don't know, mate. There's loads of rumours about Beckham. If you do find out where he got it, mate, just drop it in the comments because I might take that up myself, mate. To be fair, I wouldn't mind a cheeky little hair transplant. I must admit, if I could afford it. I have to get plenty more views on the channel, I think, to do this. Right, let's scroll down a few more comments just as Mark is coming back into the room. Jules is saying, losing confidence, I'm not surprised, given the hot and cold attitude of some fans. Yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of that, mate. There is a little bit of that. But I think that generally a lot of the fans love Pope. You know, I think Pope is done enough. There he's back. He's back after his dying as swiftly there in the background.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, mate. We'll just talk a little bit about Pope. Jules was saying some of the hot and cold attitudes of the fans, but I think Nick Pope, by and large, has got enough credit in the bank with a lot of Newcastle fans. But I think, as you say, Mark, it's about evolution of keepers. We'll not dwell on this too long, but it's about evolution of keepers. And the game has changed. Keepers have to play more, don't they, Mark? Now, just one last bit on this, and I think, like you said, Pope that might be where he falls down a bit.
Yeah, look, he's got massive credit in the bank, hasn't he? And I'm not saying that it's going to be now. I sort of hint at the sort of 12 to 18 months from now. I think that will be the time that he probably moves on, or is moved on, or just pushed back a little bit in the pecking order. But Pope's is good enough to be a number one somewhere. So I think if somebody does come in that role, he then is moved on and is a saleable asset.
Yeah, Jules had you replaced with a podcast there for a minute, Jules. It's yeah. I think if you taken any longer, I would have had to get the podcast on there. I think, to be honest with you, but yeah. So it's quite pertinent, actually. To be fair, that we are talking about. Oh, where is it? Did you see that? It's quite pertinent. We are talking about Manchester United in a way with the likes of Beckham and Rooney, because they are our first out of tune, and we'll have to start here because this has been, I'm sorry, I might sound really horrible here, right? This has been fucking sweet nectar to all football fans, especially Newcastle United fans. So if you didn't know already, the proposed Qatari takeover of Manchester United is dead in the water. Let me hit you with some numbers here, and then you can all laugh your balls off, which will, I'm sure you will do. So apparently, Sheikh Yassim upped his bid for Manchester United to get this 6.5 billion, right, for 100% of the club last week. The Glazers rejected it, and he's now walked away from the deal. The Glazers are now going to vote in Sir Jim Radcliffe's 25% minority investment. Sir Jim wants to control over footballing operations. The Man U fans are crying their tits out. Goldridge is having a right whinge, and everybody is reminding him, yes, get the violins on, mate. Everybody is reminding him, which is absolutely hilarious, of when the Newcastle takeover fell through, that he put a little tweet out there. And I know the big man watches the show, so True Geordie, if you're watching, thumbs up to you. And he said, Newcastle takeover in the toilet, True Geordie is crying. And every Newcastle fan has re-quoted that tweet to that David Brent fucking wannabe ever since it fell through, and I can't love it anymore, Mark. Over to you. What a sweet day.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, isn't it? I mean, it's just
brilliant.
When the outcry from some when they absolutely lambasted Newcastle fans for wanting a takeover from Saudi Arabia, and they absolutely lambasted them for the human rights, all this kind of stuff, and then they're crying, into their bottoms over the fact that the Qataris have now walked away from this bless. I feel so sad for them. It just honestly, but to walk away from a bid of 6.7 billion.
6.5 billion he offered for that club. 6.5 billion.
And they've taken on 1.3 for a quarter stake of the club. Now, my maths isn't great, but if they've turned 6.7 away, 6.7 is, if you broke that down by 4, is still worth a hell of a lot more than 1.3 billion. It makes absolutely not sense. It is hilarious. It's just, it was, yeah. We talk about news coming out this week. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Mark's obviously been watching The Reckoning, which is brilliant, by the way. Now then, Jim will fix it. Beautiful. Absolutely
Terrifying
brilliant.
how like.
Let's not get into that. We'll be on for another fucking hour if we talk about that, mate. We'll have to set up a new part of the channel talking about TV shows at this bloody rate. But yeah, I mean, Man United are completely fucked, and it's amazing. They're going to rot, as Luke says there. He hopes that they rot. Too bloody right, Luke, because they have been
already rotten.
Exactly, they have been such an arrogant, self-entitled fan base for so long, mocking everybody else beneath them, thinking they're fucking brilliant. Yeah, great comment there, J7. Man United fans should buy the club, just like a certain one of our former players told us to do when we were pissed off with Mike Ashley. But it's absolutely brilliant. We're laughing. Liverpool fans laughing. Everybody's laughing at Manchester United. It's absolutely fucking amazing. It really is. I mean, those Qataris will go buy another club. Might not be a Premier League club, but they will go buy another club. And, Man United are just talking about how they're totally screwed. They're stuck with these guys for ages and and this and that and everything else. They have won trophies under the Glazers, it must be said, and have spent £1 billion on players, but it's all been the wrong players. When we were bought, they said we were going to go the same way. We were going to spend all this stupid money on all these superstars like Mbappe and Neymar and all that, and we haven't done it. They mocked us when we got Eddie Howe. They mocked us when we signed Dan Burn and Kieran Trippier. Who is fucking laughing now, Mark?
Just funny. Honestly, it made, when we talk about, like I say, we talk about all the news, that story made my week because, and especially coming over the last few days, because I felt like crap, even in antagonising Geordie. That's just a huge pick me up, because it's just, when you, like I say, when you sat and watched all of their fans just properly have a go at others for who their clubs are owned by. That would be funny.
That would be fucking super. Could you imagine they bought Luton and just built them like a 90,000 capacity stadium and had all these class players playing for them? Oh man, that would be superb, man. Absolutely superb. Just to see the Man United fans cry would just, So that was just great football news for us this week, Mark. I think for the first Out of Toon. The second Out of Toon, there's been a lot going on actually. So the second Out of Toon was the batshit crazy news. Before we get into proper football news, batshit crazy news. I don't know if anybody saw this. So a long time ago, Daniel Sturridge, that's right, the ex-Liverpool player who did this dance when he scored and decided to go on to Sky Sports and think it was the fucking X Factor, had his dog pinched, I think, many years ago. And he offered a reward for said dog to be found. Now, this came out recently that Daniel Sturridge had an arrest warrant out for him in America after he failed to appear in Los Angeles for a $30,000 reward that he owes to a man who found his missing dog in 2019. Hilarious. I'm not sure an usher number is going to pay the bill this time, Daniel. You might have to find some scratchola, I think, to pay this bloke. But isn't it right that Sturridge has come out and said this is bullshit, Mark?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I think as hilarious as that story actually was, you're right. Yeah, no amount of dancing on the sidelines is gonna pay that bill.
No Usher songs covering that, mate.
But his statement was that he paid a reward to a young lad who'd found his dog, so that was all taken care of. He didn't know anything about the court case because the paperwork was sent to an Airbnb that they'd stayed at, which is when the dog went missing. The genius of the legal system in America at full tilt there, and is now confident that the matter will be resolved in his favor with his California lawyers. So there you go. It was quite a statement or quite a thing to see at first, but as it turns out, it's one of those where you go, oh. That's a bit of a letdown in the end, but it was that initial thought of Jesus Christ, what are you doing if you've done this when you've offered a reward and not paid somebody? But honestly,
one man and his dog says antagonized, and BT says the Sturridge already played the reward the person who's a scammer. Well, so just to let everybody know, so they can sleep easy tonight, Daniel Sturridge has been renewed back on Sky Sports this season, so you'll get to see him singing whatever other R&B number comes to mind, and pray that Roy Keane beats him to death with the fucking microphone in his hand and stops him doing it. So enjoy Sky Sports this year, guys. I certainly won't be watching that fucking bellend doing that. So moving on to the next Out of Toon, a couple of other bits of news. A bit of sad news, actually, Mark, that there was a retirement, very early retirement at the age of 32, I think, for arguably one of the best players we've seen in the Premier League on his day, to be honest with you. It was Eden Hazard. So Eden Hazard came out with this kind of lengthy statement about obviously, retiring from the game. He's just saying you must listen to yourself and say stop at the right time. After 16 years and more than 700 matches played, I decided to end my career as a professional footballer. I was able to realize my dream. I've played, had fun, many pitches around the world. During my career, I was looking to get great managers, coaches, teammates, thanking everyone for the great times. He obviously goes on to say he misses the clubs he played for. Lille, where he was fantastic. Chelsea, where he was phenomenal. Real Madrid, sadly, just didn't really kick off at it. And obviously Belgium as well, where it was absolutely superb. Special thank to his family and his friends and advisors. And he goes on to say a massive thank you. Really sad, Mark, real sad end to a career of a guy where, if you think back to the Eden Hazard we saw in a Chelsea shirt, at times unplayable, mate. I think, I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic, next to Messi, I don't think there was as many people as good at running with the ball at their feet than Eden Hazard. He was utterly phenomenal on his day, man.
On his day, absolutely unplayable. He really was. He's a sensational footballer. And yeah, I mean, his record at Chelsea, was it 200?
Yeah, so I've got it here. So at Chelsea,
there's 200 goal contributions in 352 games.
352 games, 110 goals and 92 assists. That's fucking unbelievable, man, isn't
it? Unbelievable. I mean, overall, you throw in it, his time at Madrid wasn't particularly special, but he's got 324 goals and assists in 600 games. A 1 in 2 goal contribution record for Chelsea, Lille, and Real is just phenomenal. And his record for his Belgium, he was exceptional for Belgium. It was 126 caps for them. Look, he was a special player. I kind of think that Chelsea done one on Madrid with that transfer. Where they'd seen this coming with him and he was breaking down already. But look, what an amazing footballer he was. And yeah, it's one of those where it is sad when a player has to retire that early. I mean, Christ, he's 32. He should still have 4 or 5 years left in his legs at kind of a decent level. But
it's interesting because the guy we're going to talk about in a minute is the personification of the dedication you have to play at that level for as long as he's playing at that level. And I think with Hazard, he didn't train very well, apparently, from what I heard. He was shit in training. He used to show around, fuck about, piss around. I remember seeing that famous clip where he was taking the piss out of Raheem Sterling's running and training. You probably saw when he did his little like mock of that and all that. And apparently he wasn't really dedicated. He wasn't, but when he showed up on game time, he was just unplayable and he did things that nobody saw coming. But moving on to this next guy, if you want to be that player and play at that level for as long as you can, you end up being a player like this guy, Cristiano Ronaldo, who got his 200th cap for Portugal the other night, scored. He's actually got his 201st cap. I think this evening they've won 5-0. He got another 2. This guy has scored, Mark, 127 goals in 201 internationals. He's 38 years old. He still looks fit as a fucking butcher's dog. Yes, he's playing in a Sunday league team, but that's the difference between a player like Eden Hazard, as somebody said before, was a fan of the Big Mac and fries, to this guy who won't even drink a fucking bottle of Coke when he comes out for a press conference. That's the sacrifice, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's all about work and work and work with Ronaldo. I mean, what a career he's had. I mean, just
phenomenal, man.
Just ridiculous.
Whatever you think about him, you've got to give him that. You've got to give him the props. Yeah. I mean, as Luke says there, Maradona R9 and CR7. That's esteemed company there. I mean, R9 was unbelievable. If he hadn't had them injuries, Mark, Jesus Christ. But going back to Cristiano, I mean, from that skinny, spotty winger that Man U signed to replace David Beckham, funnily enough. We're talking about him earlier, to what he's become. You could never have thought that, could you?
Well, I mean, he didn't. You think he didn't start off. He wasn't particularly prolific when he was at Sporting, was he? He wasn't prolific to start with at Man United, and then all of a sudden he just exploded, and he just became an absolute machine. He was a complete goal machine. His record for Madrid, and is it something like 100 something goals in 100 and something games in the Champions League?
It's more than that. I think his total record is just fucking unbelievable for Real Madrid. I'm just going to try and pull it now if my phone doesn't die in the process. But his record for Real Madrid in total is, see if I can find it by club here. So, yeah, for Real Madrid, 438 games, 450 goals, and 131 assists. I mean, that's just fucking ridiculous, isn't it, really? Yeah, but even when he was at Juventus, right? He was at Juventus for what, 2 years or something? 134 appearances, 101 goals, and 22 assists. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal man. He really is. Just, no matter what you think about him. I mean, he's an arsehole. You wouldn't want to go out for a night out with him because he's a bit of a dick, isn't he? But yeah, he'd be a bit of a boring night, wouldn't he? Just be drinking fucking mineral water. But he's a bit of a knob, and he like I always say about him and Messi. Like, Messi's the kind of guy like would walk in Mrs. home. Ronaldo's the kind of guy that would take her back and shut the door and not let you in. But I mean, phenomenal footballer, man. No doubt about that.
I'm just trying to work this out. I'm just looking this up. So his overall club minutes are just under 80,000 club minutes,
right?
Which means he's scored a goal or assisted once every 83 minutes across his entire career, and that includes the spell where he only scored 5 and assisted 6 in 31 games for Sporting. He only had 145 goals and 64 assists for Man United in 346 games. The rest is ridiculous.
Even when he come back, everyone thinks he was a flop. But his goal record at Man United was actually quite good. I mean, obviously, Man United are a basket case. As Luke says there, he's still hungry as hell, and he's closing in 1,000 goals. I mean, but as John says, he's no Joey Barton, so he can't have it all, can he? Really, John? To be fair, mate, you know, he can't be as good as that.
And no one ever
French
will be.
Joey. Yeah, he can't speak French as well as Joey Barton. But honestly, it'd be a phenomenal footballer. I think we're all quite lucky to have watched this guy in this this current kind of footballing climate that we've watched him and Messi, and then you've got Haaland and Mbappe now challenging each other, and they're the next two, aren't they? So
there's always there's this path for a couple at the sort of similar times, isn't there? And I'm really lucky to have gone through the era of Maradona and R9 and Ronaldinho, Zidane,
exactly, man,
to be followed by Messi,
Ronaldo.
And now to have Haaland and Mbappe, and you just think there's that little couple that go through each generation, isn't there? That you just go, I've lived through this. I've watched all of them, and whatever you think about Ronaldo the person, you can't deny he's such a phenomenal footballer, and there will always be that Messi versus Ronaldo, who's the GOAT.
And Bale's a good shout. Bale's a good shout, Ian. People forget how good Bale was.
Absolutely right. Jeez, I don't think Bale gets enough credit.
It doesn't, mate.
For how good he was. He was always second fiddle. Really, he was of the three. He was probably the third best player in the world.
At one point, I mean, if you go back to YouTube, Gareth Bale, Real Madrid goals, and you just sit there with your gob open. Some of the goals that he scored are absolutely unbelievable. John says there, Ronaldinho, man, the goals he scored for Barca were just unbelievable. Lewis is saying, fun fact, Gareth Bale is now a professional golfer. Is that actually true? Has he become a professional golfer? Is that true?
I wouldn't surprise us.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he's very good at golf, to be fair, Lewis. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But I kind of agree with you, George. I think Messi and Ronaldo were just levels above everybody else. Just a little point on Haaland before we go. Obviously, Haaland is going to be one of them players, Mark, isn't he? It looks like he may never grace an international tournament just because the country plays. Ryan Giggs was like that for years at Wales. He was one of the best players in the world, and he couldn't ever play in a major tournament. Obviously, Martin Odegaard as well is there with them. Scotland obviously qualify, which is great. Yeah, hey, happy days. So Scotland are going to Euro, the next Euros. But Norway, I mean, they can only get through, can't they? Through, is it the what is it, the United Leagues or something? Is there some kind of weird qualifier they can get through or something? Norway, I'm sure there's some kind of caveat. Is there some kind of back door they can get through on?
Do you know what? I'm not entirely sure. You've thrown us under the bus there a little bit.
Come on, you're normally the man for these things, but
so
there is some kind of United Nations League or something, I think, isn't it?
They can only potentially qualify through playoffs, but need to remain third. Hope Serbia qualify from Group G to be eligible for the playoff. So it's I'll be honest with you. I hadn't even realised Scotland had qualified, so my apologies for that. I've let you down there.
Shame on you, mate. What are you like? But it's great. And tell you something, I can definitely see Harvey Barnes taking that call up when he's back fit for Newcastle. I can definitely see him getting that Scotland squad to go to the next major championships. But that's fantastic. Well, listen, mate, we've nearly done an hour and 20 minutes. So thank you so much to everybody in the chat. It always helps the episode flow. We really appreciate it. Drop us a like if you can. It really helps the channel grow, helps with the old algorithms, keeps Mark happy, keeps them off my back as well, because I have to remember to ask you for the likes as well. And if you haven't subscribed already, why not give us a go? Hang around a bit longer. We have a live show every Monday at 10 p.m. Even in shit international weeks just like this, we give you loads of quality content to get yourself stuck into it just before you bugger off to bed. We're going to be back with match previews and match reviews this week as well, because we've got Palace coming up at the weekend. Newcastle are back in Premier League action. Let's hope we get back to winning ways. Have a cracking night wherever you are, guys, and we'll see you later.
Take care, guys.